Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries. I'm John and this is Hannah.
Hi.
And all this month we're going to be looking at the various prompts for RPGaDay 2025. So let's get into it. Okay, so the prompt for RPGaDay 2025 Day 2 is prompt. So Hannah, what comes to mind when I say prompt to you?
Well, first of all, it's the fact that it can mean a lot of different things.
True.
You can promptly prompt someone with a prompt.
It's like promptception.
So, first up, be prompt at your games. You can shake those dice as soon as you've found out you need to do a roll instead of rattling them for 30 seconds. You can turn up on time to the game. You can make sure that if the conversations maybe drifted away while you were having a little break, that you help the GM get people back into the game afterwards.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I'd say as well is there's a lot of time during like RPGs where your character might not be the sort of centre of attention, it's someone else's round in combat or whatever. So obviously you should be listening to what's going on, so you've got an idea what's going on. But I always try and have half a mind to like, okay, so this is what's happening. What am I going to do when it gets around to my turn? So then when the GM turns to me and they say, right, John, it's your go. What's your character doing? Rather than being like, and then wasting another 3 minutes thinking about it. I've spent that time when I'm not doing anything, so I can be like, oh, right, yeah, my guy's coming in and he's racing towards the occult book and he's trying to grab it and wrestle it off the bad guy or whatever.
Yeah. So it partly efficiency in your game, but also prompt in the sense of to give a prompt. You can prompt the other characters to join in more if somebody's being a bit quiet.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I think all of us guys do in the sort of Blades in the Dark game that Johannes is running for us at the minute, which for anyone who doesn't know, essentially you're in a weird sort of horror industrial sort of setting, which I won't go into in too much detail, and you're playing like a gang of criminals trying to do scores and rob things and whatever. And for me personally, there's a lot of interesting NPCs and like backgrounds in this game, and I'm always happy talking to an NPC. But after a few minutes of sort of my character being in the spotlight, I'll turn to one of the other guys who's like playing a character in the gang, and I'll say, "Oh, what does your character think about it? Oh, what do you reckon to this? Oh, what do you think we should do?" And it's just a way of sort of saying like, "Oh, it doesn't just have to be me doing this a little bit. Let's get one of the other characters over there." And I normally, not all the time, because obviously it depends on what's going on, but when I do that, because we play on Discord, I'll normally be like looking at people on the screen, and if I see someone who's not been involved at all for a while, I'll pick them and I'll say, "Oh, what does your character think about this?" Because even if they then go, "Oh, I'm not really sure," and you have like a little like 30-second conversation, at least for that 30 seconds they've been doing something. They're not just sort of sat back going, "Oh, I'm a bit bored, there's nothing going on."
So also there's like ways you can prompt your GM in a game, partly by how you create your character and your character background and that sort of thing, but also just, I walk into the tavern, I speak to the barmaid. Until the GM tells you there's a barmaid, you don't know that, but if you say you want to speak to the barmaid, odds are GM's going to put a barmaid in there for you.
Yeah, exactly. And some people don't. There's various degrees of sort of handing narrative control over to the players in different games and different GMing styles. But I think, certainly in my experience, most GMs, if you phrase it as a question, most GMs will be willing to like work with you because they want everyone to have a good time and they want the game to continue going. So to use your sort of fantasy tavern example, if I'm in the stable outside the tavern and I say something to the GM like, "Oh, I don't know, maybe I'm looking to set the stables on fire for some reason or whatever to escape the bad guys and the confusion," I might say to the GM, "Oh, is there any chance there's like a lantern like hanging up on the wall?" And if the GM might say no, in which case, okay, nothing lost. But I think most GMs, if it's plausible, like a lantern hanging up in a barn, they'll work with you and they'll be like, "Yeah, sure." I mean, obviously, if you're like if you're in a tavern and you're like, "Oh, is there any chance there's like 6 barrels of gunpowder stacked up in the main bar of the tavern?" They're probably going to be like, "No, calm yourself down. There isn't. Have a word with yourself." But if it's something like, "Oh, as the barkeep maybe got a couple of crates of like bottled spirits behind the bar or something he's planning to use later, which you can get the same result with," the GM will probably be like, "Yeah, sure." Worst case scenario, they'll say no, and worse off than you were before. Best case scenario, they say yes. You've potentially got something you can use to move the game forward. and you've added another layer of detail to the description that's going on for the location.
And of course, there's also this meaning of prompt, as in a big list of ideas.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we are doing our RPGaDay videos based on a series of prompts that are on the infographic from Autocratic and Casting Shadows blog. So they're prompts as well, and the idea of these prompts are to get people talking in a positive way about tabletop role-playing games. So this whole thing starts promptception, like I said.
But for RPGs, you can find 1,000,001 lists of prompts out there.
Oh, yeah.
Lists of things like names of taverns,
Yeah.
or weird fantastical diseases, or mushrooms from fantasy forests.
Yeah, and I mean, let's face it, one of the big things, certainly in old school games, but in a lot of RPGs, are random tables that you roll
Which
on,
are
like you're talking
basically
about.
just lists of prompts.
It's a big list of prompts that, I don't know, let's say it's 10 prompts. You roll a d10, and it might be a wandering monster table. It might just give you a monster. Oh, you rolled a 5. Okay, there's some orcs. That's still a prompt, because it's saying, oh, here are some orcs, and that gets you thinking about, well, what are these orcs doing here? How are they going to react to the players? But there can be other random tables, like you said. Tavern names is a great one. There's even nested tables where you might roll on the first table to go, oh, what monster's here? Okay, it's some orcs. Then you might have seen a few games where they'll have a second table where it's like, what are they doing? And you might roll on it for like humanoids, and it's like, oh, they're having an argument over some loot they've collected. And straight away, you've built up another layer of detail, but there's still allows the GM to have a lot of leeway within that to basically say, okay, well, that's spurring my imagination. They're arguing over some loot. Right, where did the loot come from? What sort of loot is it? How extensive is the argument? But like most good prompts, it's just an idea to get you going, get your imagination working, and then you sort of take it the rest of the way. Whereas it can be quite sort of difficult if you're just sat there with no idea to go, right, where do I start? Whereas if the prompt gets you over that little sort of initial hurdle, often it's then easier just to keep that momentum going. So that's it from me and Hannah for this RPGaDay 2025 episode.
Bye!
Hopefully you'll join us in the next one. And until we see you again, take care, stay safe, and whenever you're playing, have fun.